And hello, my students. This is your favorite teacher, Mr. Jacobson. It's that time again. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. I hope all your dreams came true in this Christmas season, and I'm excited to be with you at the start of the year. Today, we're going to go into the first chapter, which is on uh, ancient India. This is the chapter, let's see, this is chapter 4 in your textbook, and this is the first chapter of the 2016. What an exciting time! Really happy to be with you, and let's go ahead and begin. So, if you're not familiar with the land of India, let's talk a little bit about it first. So, this is India. It borders the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, and it's a pretty big piece of land, and there's a lot of things unique about this area. So let's talk about it. First off, uh, India looks like a diamond hanging from the bottom of Asia. India is what we call a subcontinent because even though it's part of Asia, huge mountains separate it from the rest of Asia. These mountains are the Himalaya, the highest mountains in the world. And well, let's see if we can. Here we go. So you see India here, and you see the Himalayan mountains here. Now, another really cool tidbit about India is that some scholars believe that India at one point was actually separated from the mainland of China, and due to continental drift, very slowly it actually merged or collided into Asia. And because, in essence, because it's continental drift, that means that India is actually pressing and still colliding up against Asia right here. So if you've ever maybe seen like a car accident where a car gets hit head on, the it's almost for a certainty that the hood of that car is going to pop up because of the impact from the front. And if you look here, this is where the mighty Himalaya mountains are. And this is also where some scholars believe India is actually um, converging, which caused a huge mountain range to occur right here. So imagine India is still plummeting through Asia at a very slow yet very steady rate, which if two lands collide together, most likely that land in between is going to pop up. And some people believe that is the why there is the occurrence of the Himalayan mountains, because India is in essence still pushing this way over thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. So just really interesting and cool tidbit, I think. So there are two great rivers in India, or the Indian region, I would say. India has, they have, let's see, they have two river valleys. When the snow in the Himalaya melts, the water flows into the Ganges and also into the Indus River. Now in India, I know that they call the Ganges also the Ganga River. If the water is controlled, the land near the rivers can be used for farming. The Ganges River runs south of the Himalaya and flows into the Indian Ocean. So, in essence, it goes here and it flows going south and then it runs into the Indian Ocean here. The Indus River empties into the Arabian Sea. So, again, flows south but empties into the Arabian Sea on this side. South of the river valleys is the dry and hilly Deccan Plateau, and east and west coast of India are lush and fertile plains. In fact, most of India is very green. Uh, to clarify. So here's the little idea we have that India's climate is very unique. Most of India is green and hot, humid climate. India is famous for their monsoon seasons. So you have monsoons, which are seasonal wind patterns that cause wet and dry seasons. Monsoons can bring heavy rains that can cause terrible flooding. So they have two monsoon seasons. They have a winter monsoon, as you can see here, illustrated in the reddish orange arrows. And these are dry winds coming off the Himalayan mountains. And then towards the summer, they have another monsoon season, which is the wet winds, which is coming off the Arabian Indian Ocean. So you have a dry one, you have a wet one. So very fascinating, India. I think. I think it's a very interesting part of the world that is that merits much study and understanding. So there's a civilization that occurred in India slash Pakistan area today. This area came off of what we call the Indus River Valley. It began around 3000 BC and lasted until 1500 BC. So about 1500 years it was around, which is a fair amount of time. America hasn't even been around, 300 years. So that's a long time. This region today is part of Pakistan. More than 1,000 villages and towns were part of this civilization, was stretched from the Himalaya to the Arabian Sea. We know about these people from studying the ruins of two major cities, the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Archaeologists call the civilization the Harappan or Indus civilization. So here's even some artwork from the Indus civilization, or the Harappan civilization, as people call it. So there's a mighty city called Harappa that was found, and there's another city called Mohenjo-daro, which are both from the same civilization. But these are the two cities that we could look at and go, okay, these people did exist. Let's see what they knew, what kind of technologies they had. So one thing we know is they had large cities for their time. They were well planned, and they were planned for about 35,000 people, which is significantly large for a city at 2000, 2500 BC or earlier. The fortress was built on a brick platform to keep guard over the residents. There were wide main streets and small side streets. A wall surrounded each neighborhood. Narrow lanes separated the houses. Most houses had flat roofs and were constructed with mud bricks that were baked in ovens. Wells supplied water. Residents even had indoor bathrooms. So, not too bad a place to live. Indoor bathrooms, that's a step up for sure. Some of the achievements they had wastewater that flowed to the drains under the streets, running through pipes to pits outside the city walls. Houses also had garbage chutes connected to bins in the street. In addition, residents built large granaries, which are large structures for storage. They developed a system of measurement, developed India's first writing system, and Harappan civilizations ended around 1700 BC. No one is sure why, but there are some theories. So we could talk about the theories right now. Harappan collapse. The Harappan civilization collapsed about 1500 BC. Historians think that several earthquakes and floods damaged the cities. Possible. Then the Indus River changed its course, killing many more people. That's still very possible. There's cities that have changed course throughout history for as long as we can remember. In the years that followed, a group of people called the Aryans began settling in the region. Soon, a new civilization emerged. So just as the Harappan were slowly decreasing, whether it was through her huge earthquakes or through floods or through the rivers turning course and destroying their whole way of life, who knows? But around that same time as the Harappa civilization was diminishing, the Aryans from Indo-Europe is coming in, and they are going to, in essence, take over. So the Aryans come from Central Asia. They were raised and herded animals and were great warriors. Some historians believe that the Aryans were part of a larger group that referred to as the Indo-Europeans. Cattle were a prized possession among the Aryans because they provided meat, milk, butter. Individual wealth was measured by the number of cattle a person owned. The idea of cows or cattle is still a very strong undertone in Hinduism today because cows are considered to be very special or even sacred in their religion. So the idea is that the Aryans were the ones that kind of had this first belief that cows are great because look at all these things that they provide for man or humankind. About 2000 BC, they so it moved in waves. Some groups crossed through the mountain passes in the Himalaya. They entered the Indus River Valley around 1500 BC. Around 1000 BC, the Aryans had begun expanding across the Punjab and the Ganges plains, and south of the Deccan Plateau. Their civilization spread to all of India except the southern tip. So, as you can see here, this is the Aryan migration. They're coming down through here. And so they're first coming down, and then they're going to spread all throughout except for the very southern tip of India. So Aryans invaded the Harappans using advanced technology. So the Harappans are in decline. They're a lot smaller than they used to be due to some unforeseeable sad event, probably earthquakes, whatever, fire, flood, damage, who knows, right? But they are in decline. So when the Aryans come in, they invade. They have advanced technology such as chariots. They also have like metal-tipped spears. Uh, so they have an advantage over their enemy. The Aryans also had a system of government based on small groups, usually family. At first, Aryans could not read or write and had to memorize everything, and that's going to be very important to their way of religion, because the Aryans believed they had a tradition of memorizing their history instead of writing it down. However, eventually they come up with a language called Sanskrit, which is still even, well, as you can see, this is Sanskrit over here. So it's a language that is still somewhat discernible today. And so that's pretty much it. The Harappan civilization, they also had their own language, but uh, once they were wiped out, the Aryans came in, and then Sanskrit will eventually become the dominant language and writing system. So that's pretty much it. Go ahead and write your essay, um, your essay summary, and go ahead and turn in at the first of the week when we get back from the long break. Until then, have a wonderful time and please be safe.